Great. I'm just going to start off today with a video introduction for you. I thought I'd keep it engaging so you wouldn't have to listen to my voice for the whole of the panel session. So here we go with a little introduction so you can learn about who we've got with us today, and then we're going to launch straight in.
Welcome to Thrive, Don't Just Survive. Let's introduce today's speakers. Matt Coyne from Wave Connects. Matt is a connector of people, spaces and technology. In September 2020, Matt launched the Wave Connects podcast to share stories and experiences for those that are looking at what's next for them in the events industry, enabling them to prepare for their future. A regular contributor, speaker and event evangelist, Matt has over 15 years experience of working in the events and exhibitions industry with a broad knowledge and network of organising, digital and insight-based products, opportunities and experiences. Noel Reeves, Managing Director of Rocket Global Ventures. As CEO of Rocket Global Ventures, Noel has over 20 years' experience in live events on both organiser and contractor side. His passion is helping people to get the most out of their live promotions, and he's embraced virtual as a platform to speak openly and around the challenges we face in both our work and home life during the pandemic. Clive Mickelson, psychologist and CEO of My eHealth. Clive helps companies manage their most important resource, their people. Clive is passionate about employee sustainability and preventative health. The pressures and stresses of our lives, especially nowadays, are taking their toll on many of us, particularly within the events industry. Clive joins this session to talk about the importance of recognising stresses and strains, and gives us food for thought on the proactive and preventative care starting within our workplace environment. My eHealth has launched successfully in Scandinavia, helping companies put in place a program for their employees and provides an all-rounded solution to managing their mental health successfully. And finally, me, your host, Helen Harlow, Director of Benchmark Collective and self-confessed sales geek and musical theatre junkie. My background performing in West End musicals has helped me pirouette my way into the events world and become a successful sales expert and trainer in all things rebook for event exhibition organisers globally. Benchmark Collective are a passionate bunch who help organisers and teams reach their full potential in their sales cycle through a mix of sales experience and social connection. So without further ado, let's crack on with the show.
Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the Roadmap Back to Live. It's the webinar series brought to you by International CONFEX and MASH Media, and I'm delighted to be your host. You're in for a real treat today, so thanks for joining us. As you can tell by my guests' introductions, they are a wealth of knowledge and they are perfect people for this particular webinar topic. I considered creating another how-to on sales for the pandemic, but despite us having lots to say on that topic, we felt that today's session would add more value to you guys out there, all the event profs, as we start lockdown number 2. So we decided to tackle a subject which is not only an increasingly important element of all of our lives, but is also close to my heart and the hearts of my co-directors at Benchmark Collective, because it was our central decision to launch our business. And that's the topic of mental health and finding the ways to thrive in our own terms in the events world right now. So as we try As always, we're trying to take a different perspective in everything we do, and we wanted to talk specifically today to male event profs too. So I'd like to welcome my guests, Matt, Noel and Clive, and let's kick off the discussion, guys, by focusing first on your career paths, and then we'll go into more of the personal side of life later. But tell us briefly why you originally set up your companies and how CV-19 has impacted your work. And I'm going to start with Matt, please.
Thanks, Helen. Great intro. And I also love that you pirouetted into events, that you didn't pivot into event. I thought that was amazing. So good work.
Yeah, we're trying to avoid the use of the word as much as possible. So pirouette instead.
No, good work. So yeah, why I set up Waves Connects and what we're sort of doing. So this summer, the short story, my dad passed away, and at a pretty much the same day, we had noticed that there was redundancy happening in my previous business. But my dad actually asked a question. One of the last things he said was, "Does it make you happy?" I don't know if he knew totally what that meant, but it's something I've lived by ever since. So it's it was my decision to take redundancy. And it's my decision to do what I like to do next. So then one day I was looking at LinkedIn and thought there must be something we can do to help, feeling very helpless whilst we were all locked away from each other. I knew I have a lot of connections that I've made, some amazing people over the last 15 or so years. And I thought, well, maybe it's time to share their story, which may help inspire or enthuse others in similar situations to know that there's hope and there is a way out of the situation.
Yeah, good stuff. And the same question to Noel. Tell us briefly why you set up your company, Noel.
Yeah, I a bit longer ago, I guess, than Matt. But yeah, 11 years ago, I started Rocket. Previously, Rocket Print and Promotions. We started off just helping exhibitors with small budgets to get the most out of their shows, and that's just kind of evolved over the years into full sort of stand design and build, and we've gradually built the business and brought things in: production, installation, manufacturing, print, design, everything in-house, and have been on a fantastic path for 11 years of growth after growth after growth, and almost like nothing's going to stop me now. And then obviously in March, COVID-19 hit, and obviously hit everybody in events like a train. And yeah, it has meant that we have had to pirouette into other things, but using, so, I mean, it's hit us as hard as anybody else. We've lost probably 2 million quid's worth of sales. We've lost our pipeline is gone or just has been moved. It's been fundamentally disastrous. But we've looked at what infrastructure we have to then where can we move into, what can we do with the assets that we have in terms of people, resources. So yeah, we've moved into various different things, as you know.
Yeah, and we'll talk about those in just a while. Clive, over to you. How did My eHealth come about? Give us a little bit of a background on your career history and how that came about. Oh, you're muted, Clive. I'm just going to see if I can unmute you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, My eHealth started actually in another form about 20 years ago within a management consulting and transformational change business. And when you come into companies, you realize people don't like change. And if they don't like change, there are a number of reasons why they don't. And then we were looking at psychological well-being and how to make people comfortable within the environment where they work. And that evolved. And over time, we had more focus on the psychological aspect of, you can say, allowing people to be happy bubbles within their environment. So we use that saying quite often, help people to be a happy bubble. And that evolved and into an online business, and we've had an interactive cognitive behavioral therapy program and psychological well-being program and company health care program for a number of years now.
Yeah, I think it's really important that companies put in place that kind of facility for their employees. But we can, again, we'll touch on that in a bit. But let's launch ourselves into the first poll. And if all of our participants could kindly answer the poll, I'll give you a few seconds. If we get poll number 1 up, the question is, I think we just want to learn a little bit about who's watching here. Is your job, or has your job been under threat or lost due to the pandemic? Yes, it's under threat or has been lost. No, I'm luckily safe in my job, or not yet, but possibly in the near future. So if you can just cast your votes now. And then we will give it another 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and let's have a look at the results. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, there's a bit of balance there, but actually the not the outright winner, but the highest number, 38%, is yes, it's under threat or has been lost. And then 35%, not yet, but possibly in the future. So, I mean, that is quite significant. Everybody, obviously, we're in a global pandemic. Everyone's affected in their different ways. So we're going to be speaking openly and frankly on this. And I think, guys, what have you got to say about that? Are you surprised about those results?
No, I'm not at all.
No.
I think should I start or should anyone just talk?
Yeah, go for it, Clove, if you've got it.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised by the results, is because there's been a paradigm shift in everything today on how we see things, and losing your job, especially under the COVID conditions, is not easy. So it's horrific, and there's a lot of pain out there, and hopefully we can help people to reassess their situation and to feel good after today's seminar.
So the British government, they told us a few weeks ago, or they hinted to people a few weeks ago, that they should jump online and do the online government test and see that if they were qualified to do something different. Well, I interestingly did that test yesterday, and the test told me that I should consider a career in sales. Funny that, but jokes aside, as an industry, people in the events industry are pretty damn resilient, and they're very good at diversifying. So I personally have a side hustle alongside what I do with Benchmark Collective. I have my own health and wellbeing business. And according to the Office of National Statistics, more than 1 million people in the UK have a second job or a side hustle outside of their main job. So, Noel, I think you're a great example of someone who has the ability to think outside the box. And you said you diversified in your recent ventures. So can you tell us a little bit about that diversification, how easy or hard it's been, and what it's meant for your professional future and for your own mental well-being as well?
Yeah. So as I said before in the intro, we sort of looked at what infrastructure we had at our disposal that we could move into focus on other things. So we very quickly set up like a general joinery business called the Lincolnshire Workshop. We set up a vinyl patterns for upcycling furniture, a thing called Emily and Edward Design, which is named after my kids. We started doing general print for our rocket displays, rocket print promotions. We looked at the trend in people that when we were in lockdown, not being able to go out, and thinking about how to having entertainment in the house, also in homes and gardens. So we've set up a garden bar venture, Rockstar Bars, and the one that seems to get the most interest and attention is the pizza business, which basically applied the same principles as what infrastructure have we got, what have I got that can earn money at Rockets, and I thought, what have I got at home that I could, if it really comes down to it, well, how am I going to pay my mortgage if I can't earn any money through our business. And yeah, so I had a pizza oven in the garden for a few years, and would regularly cook lots of pizzas for friends. And so we decided to give that a go, and thought we'd see how we get on. And we've been doing that every weekend since May, and yeah, it's now growing into a decent business as a side hustle, so
that's great. That's great. So I mean, it sounds like you've managed to do that really well, Noel, but that's not necessarily like as easy, or it's not necessarily the case for everyone, as I'm sure we know. Those tuning in that have been seriously affected by job loss, or reduced or even no financial income, and that's obviously impacted on their stress levels, their family life, and perhaps brought in an element of depression, anxiety, all of those things that can come with it. And there are some people out there that they're at a loss to know what to do, to know, to diversify either temporarily or permanently. So I think I'll just direct this to Clive as the psychologist on the call. What would you say to those who are struggling, who are in that kind of a situation right now? And secondly, as a man, would you agree that men don't tend to face looming issues as openly as women, or is that a bit of an outdated view nowadays?
No, that's not an outdated view, but those are two really big questions. So before I forget the second question, let me start with the first question. And the first question anyway, one of the important things is to look at what attributes you have when you're in this situation. Who am I? What self-awareness do I have? And try to improve on your self-awareness, because knowing yourself and knowing your abilities is going to help you to take the step and to take the risks to do things that are outside of your comfort zone. So when I saw this question, I was thinking, okay, what are the things that I should be bringing up? And I was thinking, okay, what are the attributes of someone in the entertaining business and in the events business? And most of those people that I've met over the years, they've got lots of empathy. They're very innovative. They're very creative. They can do things outside of the box. They're social, the best social people to be around. And they also have one other common thing, and that's usually that follows. It's a negative trait called performance anxiety. Unfortunately, we all know what that is if you're a performer. So that you can't, unfortunately, we can't address that tonight in this webinar. But that is those are one of the things, and that can prevent you sometimes from taking that step outside of the box. So, but if we just go over to question number 2 as well, there are a number of things that it's really important to start with. And the first thing is try to be grateful. Gratitude in life is one of the most important things, right? So if you can start to focus on the small things that really matter to you, and you're grateful for those things that I've got, then that big cloud over you is not such a big cloud anymore when you can come into the present and you can start to be happy with those things that you've got. So things like family, values, meaning, practice some mindfulness, because remember, mindfulness is a really good thing to do because it brings you into the present. And when you're really into the present, you can't take anxiety with you, and you can't take depression with you, because depression and anxiety are to do with things that are either in the past or in the future. So these are really key traits to understand is, okay, I'm in this situation. What can I be thankful for? And what do I know about myself? And what might be a cool thing to try to do? And think outside of that box. Reach out to your friends and talk to your friends about it. Maybe you can do a friend thing together, even although it's online, or you can meet with masks on your face or do something in order to get yourself stimulated. But the first thing is start with yourself, understand who you are. And then, unfortunately, it's a big challenge for everyone today. And it's either I've got a saying sometimes we use with patients, and we say, you either have to get on the train, or the train's leaving, if the train's leaving the station, or you're going to watch the train leave. So unfortunately, it's a tough decision in the COVID times, and the key is to reach out to your network where you can talk. So
yeah, I have to agree with you there, Clive, that a gratitude attitude really is the way forward, and you have to bring yourself back and realize what it is in life that you do have right now. And I think we've all dug deep and tried to do that over the past 8 months, and as we face lockdown number 2, that's obviously really important for those out there to try again to dig deep and be thankful for what we do have. So this leads me into poll number 2. So if I can get that one set up. So another bit of audience participation now for you. Our poll number 2 asks the question, how do you think the events industry compares to other industries in terms of its acknowledgement of mental health issues? Here it is on screen now. So do we think that the events industry is forward thinking compared to other industries? Do we think it's behind other industries? Or do we think it's not even begun to address such issues? And I'm going to give you a few seconds to finish answering that now. And then we're going to analyse the result, and I will throw it over to Matt to give us his perspective on that. He's got his little assistant with him.
Yeah, sorry, we have our 5th panelist today.
Yes.
So I've learned to adapt to home life.
Yeah, I'm sure many people out there empathise with you, Matt. All right, so actually 43% of our audience thought that it's behind other industries. Interesting. Crumbs. Okay. So Matt, what did you answer there?
I think I would have said that we're quite far behind. I mean, it's tricky because I haven't worked in other industries for over 15 years, so I couldn't tell you exactly how we compare, to be fair. But just I've worked at home for a long time in the last companies that I've worked for, and I think that has always been hard to engage with a person for their own mental health and physical health and so on. But then I've kind of quite driven myself to make sure that I'm getting out and I'm running or swimming or whatever it might be. So I have looked after myself, and I would always encourage my teams to do the same. There has been, since the pandemic, lots of support and lots of industry initiatives. Eventwell is one of them, for example, that they really are trying to change that. So I feel like it's on the cusp of change, and maybe this has been the driver for driver for big change. So yeah, I feel like we're on the cusp of turning that corner.
Yeah, agreed. Clive, how can companies, more so big exhibition organisers, people like that, bigger companies within the events industry, how can they step up their offerings and their support for employees and at this time? What would you suggest?
Well, there's
other than My eHealth, of course.
Absolutely. Other than My eHealth, the thing is, unfortunately, the boardrooms and senior management in companies haven't realized that the mental health and well-being of the employees are vital to their productivity. The innovation, creativity within the workplace all originates and stems from well-being. If a person is not well and has some mental challenges within themselves, they're less likely to participate, less likely to volunteer, less likely to engage in different things within the work environment, and more likely to end up in either an internal or external conflict within the environment that they're working in. Mm-hmm. So all of these things are really so important. And Deloitte actually came out with a report in London in January this year. And I think I can get a copy and even share it on the chat. If I do the chat, can everybody see that?
Yeah, you can share it in there.
And I didn't think about that, but actually I've got it right here. I can maybe share it over. But Deloitte came out with a report, which is a fascinating read, and it's about the workplace pain and presenteeism. So presenteeism is a new coined word for instead of absenteeism, you're actually present but you're sick. And that is a key fact. Actually, I've copied it and I forgot to paste it. Let me let me put it into the chat here so everybody can get it.
Thanks. You can. I mean, if you can't get it now, you can always put it in when.
So that report is a very fascinating report, and it shows the presenteeism costs. And in the study that they did in the UK, they found that sick leave cost companies around £6.9 billion, and presenteeism cost was around 29 billion. So the actual presenteeism cost, the mental health issues related to yourself at work, were actually 4.1 times greater than your sick leave costs. So if that doesn't resonate with the board and management, then they should be looking for another job, because that really affects the bottom line.
And Noel, you run a team of employees. How are you doing to support them right now? And do you think there's ways that you can improve that?
Yeah, 100% there's ways we can improve. I'll go back a year ago, before obviously all of this. I recruited, I don't know if any of you guys watch Billions on Sky Atlantic. There's it's like a hedge fund company. They have a psychologist, performance coach that works there full time and helps the guys go in and have got a problem about dealing with overcoming something. I've watched that and I thought that is a great idea, and it's something that I wanted to do. And we brought somebody in at Rocket who would come in one day a week and just be based in our boardroom, and people can just book in for half-hour sessions. So during work time, paid for by us, and just to try. Initially, it was about actually trying to just empower people to be able to raise their hand and say something that they weren't happy with. Just to try and improve communication around the team. But actually what came out of it was, the whole, the mental well-being and dealing with issues that they might have been carrying for a long time. And it could be anything from home life. Very rarely was it a work-related thing. But the goodwill that came from that, and how the benefit that gave to my team was massive. And it still is, although obviously when we stopped and we're having to cut things back, and we've just now reintroduced her to the team again. We offered it, so we had to make redundancies, and we offered her time available to anybody when we were going through that process. And I just think from getting somebody on board within, if you're a business owner, getting somebody on board within your business, the value it gives to your team is massive. It's immeasurable, really. The benefit from it, not just, take away the benefit to the business, but the benefit to the people who work there and helping them to deal with the things that they're carrying is massive. And never more so has that been more important. And even now, like, communication for us is a massive thing, because we're fragmented and things are changing. We don't know what's, government policy is changing all the time. We don't know about events. Yes, they're coming back in October. No, they're not. And trying to, for me, I find really hard is to be able to communicate with the team. So I started doing weekly videos, or sometimes do it more often than once a week, but just a video, just spilling my guts about how I'm feeling and what's going on and what I see coming down the road, and trying to encourage people to reach out to say how they're feeling and stuff, and I think just communication, keeping in touch with people is really difficult. And I know that some of the feedback I've had from my team is that they're still not really getting enough from me. And sometimes that's because, I'm not going to, I can easily say I'm too busy, but that's not good enough. And I have to make time to get in front of everybody to give them that sort of peace of mind. I mean, peace of mind is not a thing. I can't give good news all the time, but knowing and going through the redundancy process, the feedback that we got from that with the guys who have lost their jobs has been really positive, and almost thanking me or me and my team for how we've handled it. And just don't want to be thanked for that. And that's been really tough for me to deal with. But again, it's just about talking and being open. And when you have a bit of news, you just share it, good or bad. It's just communicate. And again, I'm not going to stand here and say, or sit here and say that I'm the best at that, but I'm aware of it and I try hard.
And that's all you can do, isn't it?
I have a comment to make to Noel. Noel, well done. Hats off to you. It's actually wonderful, the thing that you're doing. And that's exactly also what we do at My eHealth for companies. We help, we give each individual within the company a private space, encrypted private space where they get contact with a psychologist, psychotherapist, a health coach, and they get this feedback to help them along the path and to be there for them. So it's really wonderful what you're doing. You're one of the few companies that actually that see the advantage of that. So well done. It's impressive.
Thanks.
And Matt, just how is it working on your own? As a, obviously it's you are Wave Connects, and do you feel that you've got enough external support around you, particularly from the industry, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the maybe the benefit of doing what I'm doing is we get to speak to lots of people. And there's some stories that we've shared in some of the podcasts. I think Dan Cordroy is on this call. I think he's attending. But his is one in particular. And, he launched a business in January, and by end of February, it was kind of, well, there's nothing. And I'll do his story short, but, he was suddenly driving white vans for the local garden centre, earning basic wage off of what he used to get a very good day rate from, for example. So it's kind of all around like that itself for me was quite humbling, but it reminds you of, what you need to do to survive, I think. So I think just having lots of those conversations, but keeping on top of them. I mean, it's much like Noel, actually. I got in touch with you maybe around September time. And it was coming together for this webinar. I was like, do you know what? I haven't spoken to Noel yet. So keeping track of all of the conversations and actually spending the time to make sure you have those conversations is hard. But, even if you make a list, again, I think this is something Dan said actually, but if you make a list of, 50 people you'd like to be connected with, or that you'd like to check up on how they are, once a week, call, message or email one of them. Mm-hmm. Don't put this onus that, you have to speak to 150 people and you have to be out there, you have to be at the front of everything. Just chat. There's opportunities come from that. For me in the podcast, I was thinking about a podcast or chatting to lots of people, wasn't quite sure where it was going to go. But I met this guy, Jason Allen Scott. I've known him before, but he had a tool that was perfect for me that then helped me launch what I needed to do. And that was only through, just a simple, I think, text chat to say, mate, how you doing? And then it all clicked and was like, actually, well, let's get on with podcasting. So I've been used to working at home, for a very long time. It's what I've kind of done when not traveling or at an event, to be fair. But I think even then it's just trying to contact people and just saying hello sometimes and realizing you don't need to have a 40-minute conversation. You can just have a couple quick texts back and forth.
Yeah, that's it. And I think you've done really well with engaging with your community through Wave Connects. If anyone's not subscribing, you definitely should. Matt's really talking about brilliant current affairs, and his guests are very interesting and very insightful. So that's really amazing that you kept that engagement with your community. Noel, engaging with your community at the moment, your clients, your customers, how have you gone about that?
It's difficult. We've got a lot of customers and a smaller team now. We're actually working on some stuff at the moment to try and get out a bit more. I think in the early stage, it was about just letting people know we're here to support you. We're not going anywhere. Anything you need from us, we're here. And then kind of trying to say, is there anything that we can do to help you that you might be able to pay us for? Which is difficult. But if there's any services that we could offer, and I think that's the thing now. So for now, the next steps for us now is to really just try and communicate to everybody what we've been up to as a team, how the team has changed, and what we've been doing to protect ourselves. Obviously, getting and this is important for employees. Just from a self-preservation thing, you need people to know you're okay. And if you're not okay, you need to be able to just put your hand up and say. But having that, and I know it's really tough, but having the ability to say, for me as a business owner, to go to my customers and say, look, we're in a bad situation in terms of our business model has obviously got to change, but we're doing these things, so we're here to continue to support you longer term. Mm-hmm. We all know that when events come back, it's almost going to be like a popping the champagne cork in terms of work and things like that, but we hope it is anyway. But in the meantime, we have to just be open and honest and say, if we've got an issue, we've got to just raise it and talk about it and be open and honest and not hide anything. And that goes the same as if you're running a business or as an employee or an employer, for your customers, your staff, your teams, your suppliers. I found that really, really tough at the start, to go cap in hand to my landlord to say, look, this is the situation we're in. We've mapped it out. We're going to really struggle to pay our rent for the next quarter. We've been supported by them really well. And in fact, I've been really blown away by the support that we had from people that believe in what we're doing and want to help. And I think that's the big thing, is that we, as humans, we like to just bury our heads in the sand and just not confront problems. And we all know that those problems just get worse and worse if you don't confront them. And once you do confront them, the relief, there is no bad thing in confronting an issue and just saying, look, I need some help here, or this is my situation. How can you help me? Can you help me? So for us, your communication goes back to just communication, isn't it? And communicating what you're doing, how you've been, how are you, how are your customers, how are your staff? It's all goes back to the same thing, really.
That's it. And I'm just going to move the conversation forward a bit to motivation now, because actually we had a question come in as you've been speaking about that relates to that. What's your go-to tips for self-motivation? And Clive, I'll start with you. As a psychologist, how do you motivate yourself, especially as you've got so much self-awareness about your mindset and all of those things? And I guess, do psychologists have their own psychologist?
Yeah, a lot of psychologists have therapists that they go to and they speak with, because even caregivers need to be cared for.
Yeah.
So in all industries, but motivation is a very broad and I should say misused word, because it's also related to your engagement. Mm-hmm. So engagement is one of the modern research topics that you're looking at in psychology and business today. How do we motivate and engage and help ourselves to engage? And what are the key bits of that motivation? And then I was having a discussion with a professor a couple of weeks ago out of Lund University, and there was a lot of emphasis on motivation. And he said, it's quite interesting, because with the help of my eHealth, we actually find the killers to motivation. So sometimes by having, what I was talking about earlier, by being able to be self-aware and to be able to look into the mirror and look at yourself and realize where your weaknesses and your strengths are, and then finding balance within your own bubble, you can say, that you say, okay, I feel good and I love myself in this way. And you can find meaning and identity within your ability to have a vision into something. And when you believe and find that meaning and you can identify with it, then it's easy to set goals on how to achieve that. So if your motivation is related to how to get going or how to be happy, there's different things. There are different angles on what we could address there. But absolutely, sales and motivation. I think the question was, what was the question again?
Somebody asked, in tough sales landscape right now, have you changed your motivation tactics and how you recognise success? So for those of us that are selling things, have we changed the way we approach that? Matt, can I throw that to you, or are you?
Yeah, I mean it's tough because I've only just started selling what I do. So my motivation is, well, I need to put food on the table for the family. So before, I think you get very comfortable maybe when you're employed, and you never expected something like this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the motivation, the driver is there in a totally different sort of way.
Yeah.
To make sure that we can provide for our family. Is pretty simple.
Yeah, and then Noel, I guess you're running a team, and how have you managed to change the tactics in motivation, and how do you recognise their successes?
Yeah, that's it's tough. I mean, it might sound a bit crazy, but in many ways, we've kind of stopped selling and just communicate and show people what we're doing and hope and not it sounds a bit like blind, doesn't it? Hope that they buy, but we're just pivoting into things that people need and doing things that it's a different approach, isn't it? There's no one. To be honest with you, I said probably a year ago, sales in my sort of traditional way is I don't think is a thing anymore. Like now it's about solving problems, giving people what they need to help them achieve their goals.
Yeah.
Selling to me is not, picking up the phone and trying to sell something is not. I just don't. I mean, obviously it works for some things, but for what I'm trying to achieve and what we're trying to achieve as a team, we're just trying to do really good stuff that people need, and then we show them that we do, and hopefully they come to us. And we communicate in a way that we build trust through open and honest dialogue and posts, and just by being honest and genuine, and hope that people will want to work with us. And that's kind of worked. It's frustrating, but I think for me, and it goes back to what I said at the start, like when I was doing some things right at the start of lockdown, was about trying to encourage people to accept the situation that we are in now. Because as soon as you accept it, then you can start to move forward. And I think a lot of people are in denial, just thought, okay, this is going to be okay. This is going to run for a bit and then we'll be back. And for me, I accepted it very early that this is going to be for the long term. We have to change, and what we do now will hopefully pay dividends further down the line.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant.
It's been really difficult for me to swallow because we like success and we like more and we like to keep going, and and I've
like Clive said, we're driven individuals in this industry, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but success is different in different ways, right? It doesn't have to be monetary. It depends on, like you say, if you're struggling financially, then that's going to be your motivator. If you're struggling mentally, that will be your motivator. If you're struggling through any other thing, it's about trying to fix problems, and the motivation for that will change.
But your health there's a balance when you're highly motivated, right? And so the balance you've got to look at is also between the external demands within your environment and your self-expectations. So if you get a conflict within those two environments, you're going to burn out. You're going to deplete those batteries, and you're out of the game, right? And that's not a good thing to do. So to try to find that good balance, and one of the topics that we've got here today as well is about it's also about men and men's mental health and awareness within men's health. And we all go-getters, right? I mean, I'm ex-military officer and come from a military background and everything, and you just don't say anything. You just have to man up and do the job, right? But one of the central things we've been talking about here today as well is also communication. But men think it's weak to communicate because society has put certain parameters around what we can and cannot say as a man, and why aren't we manning up? Why aren't we taking responsibility and doing our job? But I can just say one thing is that there is no distribution difference. If we look at the the risk of distribution for burnout, anxiety, depression within the people we test within our environment. There is no difference within those constraints or that risk level between men and women. The only difference is that women have a network. Women talk to each other. They communicate, and they use their self-awareness and their senses and the triggers to understand those things to adapt. What we don't do as men is we're not communicating with that information. We're not understanding that information. When we don't do that, this is what ends up is that men are three times more likely to commit suicide than women. So one of the key traits is to open up and talk to your friends, talk to your network, and don't be afraid to say, I'm not feeling good. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling down. Because you'll be really surprised, because if you say that to your friend's going to put his arm around you, even in this COVID time, and say, hey, how can I help you? What's going on? Mm-hmm. Because one good thing we've got as humans is that we have a social caring. Right? We have that ability to be social and to care for one another. We just have to learn to open up and to be honest. And one of those things that you said, Noel, which was really good as well, is that you have to accept, where am I? Don't fight. Don't try and swim up the stream. Accept the situation where it is, and how am I going to move on? Because that's one of the things you use in one of the cognitive behavioral therapies that we use online through My Health. We also use a thing called acceptance commitment theory. And acceptance commitment theory works specifically with, okay, how can I accept the situation? How can I understand the links? And once you accept it, you can move on. So you said some really clever things in your statement, which is, again, remarkable. You want a job?
Love it.
I might need one soon.
All right, guys. Well, we are going to have to finish up, but I do want to just hear from each of you just very quickly, like a couple of word answers. What's your number one tip for thriving in the face of lockdown number 2 now? And it's okay that we're, just surviving, but as ambitious guys who, always aim to do more than just survive, what would be your number one tip to thrive? And that goes to Matt first.
If I do it as short as possible, it would be hoping my wife comes back soon to take my daughter. It's staying connected. Stay connected with your friends, industry, whatever it might be. Very short story. I met with someone this morning for a swim who really needed it. Not in our industry, but his industry is facing similar challenges, and he needed some fresh air and needed to get out. So stay connected with people. Lots of people are in the same situation, and they will more than happily listen or talk to you, in whoever needs it most. So stay connected and do reach out to people.
Mm-hmm. And Noel?
Yeah, for me, it's about focusing on the things that you cherish as achievements, whether that is like friends and family, whether it's a work related thing, whether it's something that you want to try and invest your time to help you as a person, and just focus on those things that are positive, and really be grateful for those things. That goes back to what Clive said earlier about being grateful, because we all have issues, but it's just just focusing on the positive things and doing the best you can in the situation that you're in.
Yeah. And Clive?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was going to follow up with again. Gratitude.
Noel
stole that one from me. but never mind. I'll come up with something. I would say learn to love yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you calm and you don't have to have defense routines around yourself, and you're happy within your bubble, then your bubble is going to shine brightly. And that's going to light up the environment for everyone else. So learn to love yourself so that you don't have to defend yourself.
Very good advice. That's all we've got time for today. I did want to run through a couple of support mechanisms, practical things that have helped me during this time. Podcasts, there's plenty out there. Obviously, Wave Connects, there's Happy Place, Fern Cotton, there's Eventwell to turn to, Eventwell Fit, a new fitness regime that you can do a monthly subscription to. I'm actually one of the fitness coaches on there, so do join me for a class. My eHealth, obviously get in contact with Clive if you want to know more about how he can help your company and your employees at this time. And loads of online apps, Headspace, Calm, all of those things. AEO as well, alongside AEV and ESSA have put together a wellbeing toolkit called Heads Up. So if you're a member, then take advantage of that and access that online. And Men's Mental Health Forum.org.uk, they have also got an MOT mental wellbeing pack that you can download. So I hope some of those things have helped. If anybody else that's watching this has got anything that they would recommend, pop it in the chat. And let's all help each other at this time. Let's stay safe and well. Thanks so much to Matt, Noel and Clive today for your time. And those questions that came in, we will answer those. We'll share those answers out for you as well after this webinar. Next week, CONFEX have got event marketing going from good to great in a COVID world. That's the 12th of November at 4 p.m. So for all those marketeers out there, that's a great one for you, and sales, of course. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, and stay safe and well.